Sometimes I walk along this brook early in the morning. I like to think this is the way the land looked hundreds of years ago when it was home to the Lenni Lenape Indians. We're just a dozen miles, actually, from the George Washington Bridge. We're in Glen Rock, New Jersey. Glen Rock's now celebrating its 90th year as a borough, and in the next half hour we're going to be meeting some of the people who make up Glen Rock and learning a little about the town, past, present, and future. There may be no such thing, perhaps, as the quintessential small New Jersey town, but maybe, just maybe, Glen Rock can be considered a candidate. Let me tell you a little about the place. It's a small town, 11,500 residents. The whole downtown is just 2 blocks long. There are plenty of banks and beauty parlors in Glen Rock. Oh, it's an affluent community. But no hobby shops, movie theaters, or car dealers. You have to go next door to Ridgewood for those. It's a quiet place. The kids will sometimes joke and call it Dead Rock. The FBI reports, the most recent ones, indicates that it's the safest community of its size in Bergen County, and the second safest in the state. It's an orderly community. In fact, Glen Rock was actually the first community in the United States to adopt a master plan. That was back in 1927. The borough fathers saw woodlands and farmlands disappearing, and they wanted to maintain a handle on the development. So they made plans. They said, we'll put an industrial area over there, and they specified by ordinance. We don't want any stockyards or boiler works or lampblack factories, and over here we want single-family homes, and so on. In fact, there are no apartment buildings, townhouses, or condominiums in Glen Rock. It's just about all single-family homes. Good schools, parks, 4 ponds and 3 streams in an area of about 2.8 square miles. Well, in the next half hour, we're going to be taking a close look at this one small town. And maybe, just maybe, as we examine some of the opportunities and problems facing the residents of this one town, we'll have something to say about life in other small towns as well. Hello, I'm Chip Deffaa. Join me, won't you, as we take a close look at Glen Rock in its 90th year. To understand the borough's present, you have to know a bit about the borough's past. Rock Road, Glen Rock's primary thoroughfare, was originally an Indian trail. It's not every borough that has in its midst a 570-ton granite boulder as Glen Rock has. The Great Rock, from which the borough takes its name, was used as a reference point by the Lenni Lenape Indians. They called it Pamakapuka, or Stone from Heaven. We're told that the Indians used the rock as a council site, lighting fires atop of it. And of course, the rock appears on the earliest maps of the region made by the European settlers. The rock is technically known as a glacial erratic. That is, it was pushed down from Canada by the glacier back in the Ice Age and left behind when the glacier receded. The rock's a state historic site. You can't move it, not that you'd want to. But back in 1912 or so, a developer did propose moving it so that he could make use of the land more profitably. Fortunately, that scheme never got too far. The late Mabel Hubschmidt, informal borough historian, used to say that the rock had a kind of magnetic strength. Maybe so. Certainly it contributes to Glen Rock's strong sense of identity. It shows up on the borough newsletter, postcards, the side of DPW trucks, and the flag. One realtor even composed a poem in its honor. Now, other boroughs may erect statues or build clock towers to provide a focal point for their community. Glen Rock never had to do that. It had this great rock downtown. We're at the Hubschmidt home in Glen Rock, and Dr. George Hubschmidt, 91, is actually a bit older than the borough of Glen Rock itself, and his sister Lily is just a few years younger. Miss Hubschmidt, maybe you could tell us how you spent a Sunday afternoon as a little girl.
We used to love to go down to the rock, and there was a big chestnut tree there that was wonderful. And we'd climb up and sit on the rock, and we thought we were having a wonderful time. And of course, it was especially nice when the cousins came out from New York, and we could treat them the same way. Or we took a walk over to Goffle Mountain. But there was no amusement in Glen Rock except what you made yourself.
Glen Rock was mostly farmland in those days?
It was all farmland. I say yes, all. It wasn't. The only industry that I know of at the time was the David J. Marinas woodworking mill, which stood on the west side of what we always called Marinas Brook. And now it was the boulevard. The boulevard runs right alongside of the brook there. And there was quite a mill pond above that. And then that was the only industry that was in the town that I know of. There was, I believe, one store up at where the group now of the stores are on Maple Avenue and Park Avenue, just above that there. And there was nothing here. Then you had your 3 saloons, 3 hotels. You had O'Neill's Hotel, the Halfway House, which was here over on the part of the parking lot across the street, and Wagner's Hotel at Harristown and Maple Avenue. And otherwise, there was no industry in it that I know of.
There might never have been an independent borough of Glen Rock had not the people running Ridgewood Township in 1894 decided to shut down this red brick one-room schoolhouse. Back in those days, most of what is today Glen Rock was part of the unincorporated township of Ridgewood. The rest was part of Saddle River Township. Children from homes within the area now known as Glen Rock went to this one-room schoolhouse, which in the early 1890s held 75 students and 1 teacher. Ridgewood wanted to shut the schoolhouse down. All of the children would go to a new schoolhouse to be built in the heart of Ridgewood. Well, the frugal Dutch farmers of Glen Rock balked that the new school would cost too much. And they didn't like the idea that their children would have to go tramping a couple miles from their homes into central Ridgewood. There'd be deep snow on the unpaved roads in winter and heavy horse and buggy traffic in spring.
Well, at that time, Ridgewood was voting, and I believe already passed the vote to build a new $50,000 school in Ridgewood. Well, that kind of fed up the people here because it meant that when the kid got through in school that day, he came home and instead of being able to work for an hour or an hour and a half or 2 hours, maybe he could get 15 minutes work in because he hadn't been home in time enough. So they put up quite a fuss about it and then decided that they'd run and break Glen Rock out of the township of Ridgewood.
So the decision was made to break off from Ridgewood, to incorporate as a separate borough, to be called, it was first proposed, South Ridgewood. But word spread that Ridgewood itself was planning to incorporate, and Ridgewood would be claiming the area now known as Glen Rock. And so the founding fathers worked late into the night, canvassing residents house by house, to ask them if they wanted to be part of the new borough or the old borough. The erratic border between Ridgewood and Glen Rock today is a reminder of the fact that some residents wanted to go with the new borough and others wanted to stay with the larger town of Ridgewood. The Glen Rock surveyors filed the necessary papers in Hackensack mere hours before the Ridgewood surveyors did. The original incorporation map bore the title Borough of South Ridgewood. Only at the last minute was the South Ridgewood penciled out and the more distinctive appellation Glen Rock penciled in. The residents voted 80-2 to formally approve the incorporation. Those 2 dissenting votes were cast by residents who feared that a unanimous vote might not be judged legal. Today, this schoolhouse is part of a private home. Glen Rock owed much of its growth to the railroad. The Patterson and Ramapo Railroad, one of the earliest railroads in the state, opened its line to the area known today as Glen Rock back in 1842, just years after the first rail line in the state was opened. Passengers could travel from the Hudson River to Patterson on one line and then take a second train to the area known today as Glen Rock. Glen Rock's location, directly on this rail line, opened it to commuters. Because of the Patterson-Rampo Railroad, later part of the Erie system and today part of the Conrail system, passengers could commute from New York to Glen Rock. In the 19th century, trains did not stop at this station. It wasn't built until 1905, but at a platform at the foot of Ferndale Avenue. Across the tracks in what is today the wooded Lower Doremus Park, there was a turntable so that trains could turn around. It looked like a great lazy Susan with a piece of track across it. I'm sitting on part of the foundation of that long-gone 19th century turntable. The railroad company owned about 15 acres of land alongside the track here. They quarried sand at the site. George Hubschmidt told me the sand was taken to Jersey City or New York for building purposes. The sand quarrying continued in the early years of the century. Dr. Hubschmidt told me, I saw them take out plenty of it until I was perhaps 16 or 18. They had quite a pit and they took it out on flat cars. The quarrying is why much of Lower Doremus Park is today 10, 20, or 30 feet lower than the level of the adjacent tracks.
They had a yard and a turntable for locomotive. And they also had a number of, they did a big business there of carrying sand into Jersey City and New York to be used in the building industry. And they dug out tons and tons of sand, which is also at the end of Doremus Avenue, where it comes down after going down past the rock. And the railroad used to terminate the Newark branch trains at Ferndale Turntable, turn them back and go down through Patterson. And they used that for a number of years.
On the Erie property, there was a rail yard, perhaps a half dozen lines of track where 20 or 30 cars could be stored. Cars would be shunted onto sidings via this turntable. The borough tax records of 1908, for example, indicate that the Erie had a passenger station at Rock Road and at Ferndale worth about $2,600, sidings and yard tracks some 10,000 feet back here worth about $9,700, the turntable worth $1,000, an oil lamp and coal house near here worth $75. Someplace near here there was an outhouse worth $20, 14.6 acres of rail yard and turntable land worth $730, for a total value of $13,596. The Erie was one of Glen Rock's major ratables, and it paid $236.76 in taxes. Well, the rail yard and quarrying operations went up in flames in the Great Fire of 1912. That was the first major challenge for the borough's recently formed volunteer fire department. George Hubschmidt recalls vividly the night of the Great Fire of 1912, when 4 or 5 boxcars caught fire. He was 20 years old back in 1912. He told me the Erie sent a switch engine from Patterson, bringing a few thousand gallons of water. There was no water at this site, and the engine had to go back to get more.
And you happen to mention about the fire. One wintry night here, the roads were bad. They were just like glass, freezing and raining and freezing. And they got the alarm of fire here. Papa was chief at the time, so we rushed up to the firehouse.
Dr. Hubschmidt told me volunteer fireman Ike Paxton drove the horses hard as he raced the fire wagon down Ferndale Avenue.
And when he came down near a dead run. And when they hit the crossing, it was just like glass. The one horse went down. They kept right on going. They never tried to stop, but they couldn't have anyway. And finally, that horse in the scrabble neck got on his feet. No broken legs, no bone broken. And they went on down to the Ferndale Avenue where it was soft in there and stopped. We had the town fire engine out there, but that was just a hose wagon. But there was no hose and no water mains there. And the Erie sent his one switching truck up from Patterson with a load of water in their tank. They'd empty that out and you'd run back to Patterson, load up and come in. I think they made at least 4 or 5 of those trips that I saw them make. They finally got it out, but of course the cars were pretty well burned up by that time anyway.
The railroad yard's days were ended. The quarrying stopped. Gradually, this whole tract reverted to woodland. And in 1954, the once powerful Erie Railroad, by now pressed for cash, sold its 15-acre site to the borough for $1 and forgiveness of back taxes. And 5 years later, the borough dedicated this wooded tract as parkland to preserve it in perpetuity. It's good to have a bit of land left wild like this. Oh, the borough has its ball fields for organized games such as baseball, football, and soccer. But here kids can let their imaginations roam in unsupervised play. Perhaps they can build a fort or explore a brook or play variations of hide and seek. Manhunt's the name of a local favorite. And the kids ride bikes through the woods frequently here. Over there they've dug a pit where they'll make jumps, and we've even had bike races here. A tree house, and you'll see several of them back in these woods, is a healthy sign. We need this kind of housing in our community, perhaps no less than other kinds of housing. Preserving a bit of natural play area like this for the kids is, for me, much of what Glen Rock is all about.
I don't want to leave Glen Rock.
As far as I'm concerned, it's home, and it has been home, always has been home, and I hope it stays that way as long as I last anyway. And I don't know of any better place.
This program is about people as much as anything else. We brought our cameras into the offices and homes of some well-known and not quite so well-known residents of Glen Rock. At the time of our taping, Charles Lagos had been mayor of Glen Rock for 8 years. Before that, he had been a councilman for 7 years.
I think one of the reasons towns like Glen Rock enjoy the reputation it does is because of its size. Being small, the people know the mayor, for instance, by his first name, and that has a great deal of advantage. I receive phone calls almost every day from citizens, and I'm sure if anyone tried to call Mayor Koch, let them know that their garbage wasn't picked up, I think they'd have difficulty calling Mayor Koch or wouldn't even know where to call him. So being small has a great many advantages towards better living, I believe.
What sort of things have people called you up about?
Well, I receive phone calls from people indicating that their animals, their loved animals got lost, and they want to know what we could do about trying to find their favorite cat. Or I received calls, for instance, that their garbage hadn't been picked up, and calls that asking what time certain events are taking place, and if an office is open on Saturdays or Sundays, and calls of that nature.
And what would you do if they said their garbage isn't picked up and you're the mayor?
Well, oftentimes, believe it or not, you receive phone calls. They're not really so much that they're complaining that the garbage wasn't picked up, but many times it's from older citizens who I could tell are kind of lonesome. And I ask them where they live, and I go over to visit them and try to explain to them why the garbage was picked up, that they don't have to be politically minded or active citizens, that the service is for them as is for everyone else. And after I visit with them and talk with them, they feel very comforted. Not so much, again, that the garbage was not picked up or missed, but the fact that I went there and sat and talked with them made them feel that a little better.
Glen Rock's a Republican town. It's been many years since a Democrat was elected to the borough council. Some years the Democrats don't even nominate candidates for borough office. The borough council is composed of 6 members, mostly in their 50s and 60s. It's a seasoned group. The new mayor, Eugene Beckin, was in fact first elected to the council back in 1964. You won't hear raised tempers or arguments among council members. Split votes are rare. Most votes in Glen Rock council meetings are unanimous. Glen Rock is home to Alvin Merrill, considered perhaps the world's foremost authority on movies made for television. He's the author of a whole shelf full of books on film personalities. His son James designed the borough's flag.
I've been studying flags for about 10 years, and I decided that Glen Rock should have one. So I proposed a design to the town council, and I found that we already had a flag, legally that is, but it had been used once in 1948 and then disappeared after the 4th of July parade. So I went to the town council, as I said, and I designed this flag. They gave the design to 3 experts in the town who revised it, and this is what they came up with. And the experts were Larry Krebs, Larry Blumenthal, and Hy Eisman.
From his home in Glen Rock, cartoonist Hy Eisman has long sent out to the world the comic strip Little Iodine. George Wolfe has been a nationally known cartoonist for some 55 years. He's treasurer of the National Cartoonist Society, and he's been active in almost every Glen Rock organization, from the Blood Bank to the Lions Club to the Garden Club. He's been considered the honorary mayor of Glen Rock. He's been called the mayor without portfolio.
I got into the habit of sending little sketches to children or grown-ups who did something that was really praiseworthy, and I felt that very few people do this, and I was going to do it. So I'd send, if you appeared in the public print as having been chosen for something or passed something, I'd send a drawing, and sometimes a kid or a grown-up would do something, and I'd send a drawing, and one day Irene said to me, what are you doing that for? And I said, look, when I die, I want everybody in town to remember something good about me. So that's why I did it. This one my wife doesn't care too much about, because I'm a little too, it's a little too playboyish. But she didn't see the ghost like I did, or the witch. This, of course, is just wishful thinking. This is the largest hero in the world. I made sure I put a little ethnic color here, and I enjoy doing this very much because I once saw a hero sandwich like that. In fact, I took about half of it, about that much. Thank you.
After her divorce a couple of years ago, Hope Noah started a new career as an advisor to singles, writing a newspaper column, and today hosting WMCA's popular Hope Noah Show. She's serving as radio's matchmaker of the year.
Thing that makes life pleasant and lovely, and it certainly is here in Glen Rock. I work a lot in the city, but I love my Glen Rock. You agree?
Yeah.
Okay. We both agree.
Me too. We three
Okay.
agree.
3 of us. Okay.
Can I
Thanks a
talk?
lot.
Can
Okay.
I talk?
John Adams is Director of Music Services for Channel 13 and has helped produce an acclaimed series of specials featuring survivors of the swing era.
What I like about Glen Rock is the fact that it's a nice residential community. It's, especially when the kids were little, I like the fact that everybody can walk to school no matter where they lived in town. Especially over the years, we've enjoyed the pool very much, and the 4th of July parade, and all the nice things that Glen Rock has about it as a town. I don't know, it seems to sum up, I think, what a lot of American towns would like to be.
We're at the home of the Vivinos in Glen Rock. Floyd Vivino, who grew up here, is today the star of the Uncle Floyd Show on the New Jersey Network. And a lot of the kids you'll meet in town are a little proud that he went to Glen Rock. I have an old Glen Echo high school newspaper from '69. It said Floyd was voted the senior the underclassmen would miss the most. You're kind of proud of that, weren't you?
Very proud of that. I guess they missed me. I was in every kind, when I went to the high school, I was in every possible theatrical or artistic show that could possibly be. There was the Nights of Drama, which was the legitimate theater of the high school. There was the variety show put on by Mr. Harris and the student body, which was the vaudeville type show. There was the musical, which was put on by Mr. Seidel and subsequently Mr. Lundquist, which was like the Broadway part of the show. And there was the school assembly, which I had the stage every other Thursday. My start as an entertainer did really start at Glen Rock High School. I had the lowest, in all respect to whoever is doing it now, the lowest possible position you can have in the artistic end of the arts or performing. I was the cymbal player in the marching band. This was not a by choice thing. I did not seek to do this. Being a piano player, obviously we couldn't play the piano, but I was the cymbal player. What happened was there were demonstrations were quite big while I was in high school, and we had a demonstration that they did not give us enough time to eat lunch in the cafeteria. We had 23 minutes for lunch, and I was one of the 5 students who organized a rally to have everybody buy lunch on one particular day, which meant that approximately only 35% of the students could possibly be fed through the lunch line. Everyone was to take their time, and I got caught. So the principal at the time says, well, you can serve 13 weeks of detention, or you can go see Mr. Silsky. So I says, why do I go see Mr. Silsky, the band leader? And I walked in, and Mr. Silsky says, yeah, you can either have 13 weeks of detention, or you can do the football season with in the marching band with the cymbals. So I would play. I'll give you my solo. I'll go like this. Yeah. Something like that was the song. I forget the words. Glen Rock, oh Glen Rock High, we love you so. 3 cheers for Glen Rock, crash. Dun, 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 dun. From there I went to TV, as simple as that. This piano was in tune when I was in town. Me and my brothers. It has not been tuned. It's a nice place to crack walnuts now, but it's a little bit out of tune. But we can do a number. We'll do a number. Be sure it's true when you say I love you. It's a sin to tell a lie. Millions of hearts have been broken just because these words were spoken. I love you, yes I do, you know I love you. If you break my heart, I'm gonna cry. So be sure that it's true when you say that I love you. It's a sin to tell a lie. I don't know what happened to the cymbals. I seem to lose them over the years. That song always bothered me because it's the beginning of Wait Till the Sun Shines Nellie, and I used to bring this up to Mr. Silsky and various people, but no one seemed to care that Wait Till the Sun Shines Nellie is the same as Glen Rock, oh Glen Rock High. And I don't want to make trouble for the town, but someone should investigate that.
Go and fight and use them right, 'cause we're shouting out and we're shouting loud. Our team's Panthers and we are proud.
No portrait of a town would be complete without talking to some of the youth of the town. And with me here are Ann Cobres and Wendy Orsek, and you're both 14, is that right? Yeah.
Almost 15.
Yeah, good, good. Tell me a little about what you like about Glen Rock, or what you don't like, or whatever. Either one.
Go ahead.
Well, it could be a little bigger.
Go on. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me what you like to do.
Well, I like to cheerlead,
Uh-huh.
and I've been doing that since I was in like 5th grade.
Uh-huh.
And then that's what I do every day after school. We have a practice, and then
You don't have a job, do you?
no,
No, most kids
babysit.
do. Yeah, you babysit.
Come home, do my homework, and talk on the phone.
How much time you spend on the phone about?
Well, I'm only allowed to talk on the phone until 6:30,
Uh-huh.
and then
When do you start? I mean, is that like from 6 to 6:30, 5 to 6:30,
it's usually
3
about
to 6:30?
5:30 because that's when I get home from cheerleading.
Uh-huh.
Usually, I'll talk on the phone for maybe 40 minutes, and then
With Ann or with boys or both, or different
I only talk to like 3 people because I don't have enough time to call a whole bunch
Uh-huh.
of people. So I talk to usually Ann and Steve, and that's it.
Uh-huh. And how about you? What do you like in these days?
Well, same really. After school we have cheerleading, and then we'll probably like go downtown to pizza place, and then I go home and talk on the phone and homework.
Uh-huh.
You don't do a lot of homework. I do a lot.
15 years ago, Floyd Bavino was a member of a teenage rock band in Glen Rock. We visited with several members of a current teenage rock band, Dead End. How often do you guys get together to practice or anything like that?
Well,
Lately?
lately,
Lately, feel like every weekend.
Yeah.
Because of school and football and basketball and everything.
football,
Because you're in
basketball.
sports and stuff like that? Yeah.
And then once summer comes, we practice like every day if we got a concert coming
Like
up.
last summer you played at the church, community church, and you played at the 4th of July parade.
That was about, for the concert we did at community church, we were doing about, a lot of practicing. We were doing it for 1 week. We practiced about 5 days, 5 hours a day.
You guys are going to be on TV, maybe a lot of people watching. Anything you want to say to the people tuning in?
They should get more things for kids our age to do it. Like, ever got anything going on, it's usually just like they just want you to stay home and stay out of trouble.
Yeah, we should have like a house or something where we can just hang at and
Yeah,
watch
like,
TV
an
or play
center,
pool.
like,
Yeah,
play
like
pool.
play
Like a
pool
frat
and
house kind of,
And I mean,
Yeah.
people say it's been tried, and it's chaperoned by adults. But then, I don't know, my mother, you think,
Rural the tax money goes.
it's not.
yeah, but how can I put it? It's like they're not when there's a parent there or something, or just like a lady like in a little place.
Mhm.
It's not that exciting, I just like to go with my friends. I don't mind if there's someone watching, a lady just watching, so we don't destroy the place.
Yeah.
But we just like to just sit around and just some place to go.
Like a place to hang out or youth center or something
Yeah, a
like
place
that.
to hang out.
Get a band like us to play there.
James Lobson's a freshman at Brown University, graduated last year from Glen Rock High School.
The teachers at the high school really made the experience special. I mean, there are teachers there like Dr. Pine, who's a PhD, and Mr. Eichmann, who really, really care about the students. For instance, I came back for Thanksgiving break this year, and I called up Mr. Eichmann and I said, listen, I have a term paper to do. Can you help me with it? The Wednesday before Thanksgiving, we spent an hour and a half going over that paper. Here's a man who wrote for Bonanza, who wrote TV scripts, who still works for NBC, who's helping me for an hour and a half before Thanksgiving with my term paper. It really is part of the experience at Glen Rock. My experience on the Board of Education was probably one of the most valuable in high school. Last year, I served as a student representative to the board. I was elected by the student council. And it was just, I learned to stand up for what I believe in. There were certain things that were going on that I didn't necessarily agree with, and that I didn't think the student body agreed with. And I stood up for them, and I learned that to get anything done in the world, you really have to stand up and you can't roll over. You have to stand up and you have to voice your opinion. And it's probably the single most valuable experience I learned in high school.
Glen Rock has had one police chief for 25 years. Chief Neil Finn joined the squad in 1948. His father was a policeman, his two brothers are Glen Rock policemen, his son's a Glen Rock policeman. I asked the chief what he was proudest of.
I think we take the greatest pride in the fact that our police officers have never been charged with brutality. There's never been a charge of bigotry or civil rights violations. We take great pride in that because in our business it's a very controversial business, and it's very difficult to deal with people without causing someone to be upset with you. And we take great pride in that. We also have a certain esprit de corps that we've gained through a pistol team that we've been active in since, well, I haven't, but the team has since 1940. And very recently, our team has been able to accomplish a great deal. And it's all because of the interest of the members of the department.
I understand your team did especially well this year.
We did very well this year. In the league that we shoot in North Jersey, we won 26 matches and lost none. And during the county pistol championships, our team shot 1199 out of a possible 1,200. We take a lot of pride in that.
Change does not come easily to Glen Rock. It's a community of single-family homes, and when developers have even so much as hinted about putting up townhouses or apartment buildings or condominiums, they've been met with protests. When one developer proposed tearing down a concrete silo that some residents had called an eyesore and putting up condominiums, residents said no, they'd rather keep the silo. Of course, there are problems in Glen Rock, just like any place else. It's part of the 20th century. Still, it surprised some residents when there was a bust of a major cocaine ring operating right here in the county park. We spoke to some people about the social problems in the community and what they're trying to do about it.
Here in Glen Rock, we have a group known as Youth Guidance Council, and we are appointed by the mayor, and it is our responsibility to hear cases of juveniles who've gotten into a little bit of trouble. Over the years, we've been realizing that more and more of the cases have been either alcohol-related or involving alcohol, kids drinking alcohol or creating some kind of vandalism as a result of being drunk. We got together and we decided that our first step was to educate the parents, because we felt that the parents were either part of the problem or they were totally blind to the problem. They would always say, "Not my kid." And one night, we got 140 parents to meet over at the high school. We had Chief Finn speak. We had a recovering 17-year-old alcoholic speak. And we had a medical person speak. And we educated the parents about certain things to look for. And then we did what we felt would probably be the most important thing in our program. We set up all the parents into smaller groups according to the grade level of their child. And these parents now meet on their own in somebody's living room, maybe twice a month, and they exchange ideas. They help each other cope with some of the problems they might be experiencing. They give each other ideas about how they can help prevent such a problem. And what the parents are doing is networking. And we feel that the best way to deal with this problem is by the parents communicating with one another and then eventually communicating with their children.
Each Wednesday night, many parents gather at the Glen Rock Community Church for a group called Tough Love, a parent support group. Since its founding in Glen Rock, perhaps a dozen groups in other communities have sprung out of this group. A few years ago, Tough Love didn't exist in Glen Rock, and now it's considered one of the community's assets for social problems. We're here with Jean Baker Wonder and Sherman Dix, who are the co-founders of Tough Love. Jean, tell us, how was it that Tough Love got started in Glen Rock?
Well, Chip, I had a lot of problems with my children, and I think I was filled with such anger and such energy. And having tried so many other ways of trying to solve the problem and finding no solution, I started Tough Love. And Tough Love is a parent support group for parents who are outraged by their children's behavior.
When you called the first meeting, what was the reaction?
Well, the reaction was stupendous. I think 65 parents showed up at the first meeting in Glen Rock.
And Sherman, what were some of the problems that were discussed at that meeting or other meetings?
Chip, some of the problems that were discussed at the meeting were children using drugs, children assaulting the parents, children running away from home, parents having difficulties themselves overflowing into the children's problems and creating problems with the children. And once the parents saw that others had problems like themselves, this was a good start of harmony and communication, which gave us a good send-off.
Do you find that parents have been rather receptive, or do they deny it sometimes? How do they react?
Well, I think there's a lot of parental denial, yes. But I think we got it out of the closet, so to speak. We like to think of our town, Glen Rock, as a lily-white community with all kinds of wonderful things happening, and that, in fact, is true. But there are very large problems in our community that very often we tend to shut behind the doors, and we need to bring it out, and we need to get it out of the closet.
Glen Rock is getting older. The population is declining. It reached a peak of about 13,000 some years back. Now there are fewer than 11,500 residents. Many of the couples that moved here after the Second World War still live here, but their children have grown up and moved away. Senior housing is a real concern. It's been talked about for 20 years, but now seems likely to be becoming a reality. The two leading advocates of senior housing in the borough for the past half dozen years have been Peter Sherbo and Ray Knoll.
The elderly should have access to privacy and sociability. The opportunity to meet the neighbor next door with in a friendly conversation, a walk in the landscaped grounds, or a cup of tea is most important. It will give these people an opportunity to extend a useful life and let them live in independence, dignity, and respect.
I think the important thing is to have an alternative. Right now, people who live in Glen Rock that live in houses, whether they're a single person or widowed by themselves, or even a couple, who reach an age where they no longer want to take care of their house, they may not have the physical ability to do it, aside from the financial need, and now they have no alternative. Those people must either bite the bullet and stay there and do the best they can, or move out of Glen Rock. And many of their friends and associates and longtime neighbors that they're very close to are here in this community, and they don't want to leave here. They do not have an alternative now. This provides them with an alternative, and that's why we're so strong for senior housing in Glen Rock.
It's by no means certain, however, that this senior housing will be built. The sign says it's to open late 1984, but senior housing's been under discussion in Glen Rock for many years, and it wouldn't be surprising if there was still some discussion ahead before the first brick is actually built. Might be interesting to come back in, say 20 years and see how this community has developed, because time doesn't stand still, not even for Glen Rock. This isn't Brigadoon, despite what some residents say. It'll be interesting to see if these wooded tracts of parkland still remain. The whole area faces a greater trend towards urbanization. There are plenty more office buildings than you found 20 years ago, and farms are only a memory. And what about the impact of Mount Laurel 2, which says that communities such as Glen Rock must set aside some space for low and moderate income housing? So far, that impact hasn't been felt. But chances are, in the years to come, even though there's not much open land available, Mount Laurel 2 will have some impact. Well, that's our community. And now, John Pizzarelli Jr. and the Bucky Pizzarelli Trio, how about a little closing music?
If you wanna pay a visit, Newark Airport's where you land. The Pinelands and the Vinelands, Seaside Heights, Margate. You can have Miami, I love the Garden State. I've been a lot of places, seen pictures of the rest. But of all the places I can think of, I like Jersey best. Philly dogs like chili dogs, they eat in Cherry Hill. In Woodbridge they make Haagen-Dazs, I can't get my fill. And Forked River ain't chopped liver, nor is Lavalette. There are no Jersey strangers, just friends we haven't met. The Jersey Nets went that away, Piscataway no more. Had another winning season, and next year they'll win more. Our Giants could go all the way, they could win just one. But the parties in the lots before the game are really fun. The Pinelands and the Vinelands, Seaside Heights, Margate. You can have Miami, I love the Garden State. I've been a lot of places, seen pictures of the rest. But of all the places I can think of, I like Jersey best. Well, our famous parkway is the dark way home from Manasquan. You think for all those quarters they'd turn the road lights on and have no pity, Jersey City once again will shine. With Homedale, Cape May, Phillipsburg, I like our state just fine. The Pinelands and Vinelands, Seaside Heights, Margate. You can have Miami, I love the Garden State. I've been a lot of places, seen pictures of the rest. But of all the places I can't think of, I